Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Amicable Divorce Network podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Moore-Grant, founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. If you've been tuning in, you know that season 2 of our podcast follows our new book, Divorce Amicably, Your Roadmap to Resolution, chapter by chapter through all 80 chapters to help you get the best information to divorce in the best way possible. I am joined today by Michael Cohen, an Illinois mediator who wrote chapter 25, which is the types of co-parenting. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Jump in and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself. How did you get into mediation and where you're located?
Sure. I mean, you answered the first part. I mean, it's primarily out of Illinois, but I used to work corporate. I had a 33-year career in corporate where I led teams and always had a knack of leading teams to a North Star. I went through a divorce that I made the mistake that a lot of people do. I just hired an attorney that a friend recommended, didn't know he was a litigator. Great guy, we became friends, but we were in court all the time. But it was primarily because my spouse was very litigious. While I was in court, I started learning what mediation was. I thought it was something I could do really well. I went to Northwestern and got certified and put it in my back pocket for when I left the corporate world. And I was very fortunate to start this up. My passion is really around the co-parenting piece because I saw what a litigious divorce can do to children. So that's my focus. I do have a CPA, so I'm really comfortable with the finances, which is also a big part. But my passion is around the co-parenting and helping parents get through their divorce in the healthiest way possible.
And that's our same passion as well. We always ask people when making decisions to think about the best interest of the child, and sometimes that's very different than the parent's individual interest. So you wrote types of co-parenting. So I guess I would say this applies to people are separated and they're having to learn to work together or not work together about the best interest of the child. Obviously, working together is ideal, but it doesn't always happen.
Right. It's really hard. I tell a lot of my clients that they have to have a split personality because there's a lot of emotion that they're going through with the divorce, and they need an outlet for the anger, the depression, the stress of being divorced from a lifelong partner. But on the other hand, they're still parents. And I can tell you from my own experience, kids get married, kids have different events, life events, and you're going to see each other. And you're not just a co-parent for the next year or to get them through school, it's for your entire life. Yeah. So for your children, you have to recognize your parents. You created these children and nobody else in the world is going to enjoy them more than you two. So as much as you're stressed, you've got to find a way to work together because it's better for your kids and it's better for you.
Yeah, it's important to point out, I think a lot of people look at the here and now, but co-parents today, grandparents tomorrow, and so that really just creates another level of stress for the children who are now parents and their kids, birthday parties, special events, all of that. Everybody would like to be there together and have a good family event without a lot of tension. And so it starts, at the time of divorce. And so the first parenting, I guess, style, we might call it, that you touch on is one that is, I would say, rather unknown, and that is parallel parenting. So talk about what that is.
Yeah, parallel parenting is unfortunately what I had to go through. It's when the spouses aren't talking to each other, and I'll say this was not on my accord, but we just couldn't communicate. She wouldn't talk, she wouldn't engage. I would actually say she's probably more of the second style, but parallel parenting is really when both parents are doing the best job they can for the kids, but it's in a vacuum.
Yeah.
There's no collaboration, there's no communication, there's no flexibility, and you're both being the great parents, but the kids know that what happens at mom's and what happens at dad's is completely separate, and there's a vacuum in between. They know there's not a connection. And what I wrote in the article is that's where kids find this gap, and sometimes that's where they go through the gap and find friends that you don't want them hanging out with or habits that you don't want them to have because there's no cohesive, collaborative approach.
That's right.
The more parallel you are, the bigger the gap, the more opportunity for the kids to do their own thing.
So just like the name suggests, these are two roads that do not intersect. So you have parent one's house is maybe totally different than parent two's house, and it does allow kids to get away with stuff, I guess, because they're not talking about this test or this sport activity or this project or whatever it is, where there is a balance and a cohesion between each household. There's just two different roads, two different sets of rules. And the feedback I've received from adult children who went through this is that they hated it, that it was very negative for them. And I don't know if there's been any studies on that, that, but I've just received some emails and information about that. They prefer the cohesion and the cooperation.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times it's not even intentional where the kids find things. It's just because they don't have a cohesive support. They
Yeah.
just do things that they're not being disciplined on or just modeled after. And I think that for kids, they want both parents to be involved.
Yeah.
It's a bad situation because kids are smart.
Yeah.
The parents think, I'm going to just be the best parent I can. I'm going to laugh and make you happy. Let's do things and have a great relationship. Now go to your other parent. But the kids actually can see through that. And the kids actually become the adults in this relationship because they realize that you're not talking to their other parent.
Yeah.
They realize, and they have to put on a face to go along with the show, knowing that the most critical part of parenting is not there.
Right. And really allows for a lot, just kids not being, I hate to say not being monitored because it sounds like they're wild children, but, there's just inconsistent rules. If they're on restriction at one house and maybe lost their phone, that doesn't carry over. So there's just sort of a lack of consequences in that type of disciplinary situation. But just in some of the other areas too with schooling and projects and things like that. So very interesting. Some people have to do it like you did. You can't force somebody to communicate with you and be a good parent. So sometimes you're on your own road.
Right. And if you find yourself in that situation, I would encourage you to kind of take the high road and everything. There's a lot of best practices I talk to my clients about, but one is transitions. Like help the other parent understand what the kids did while they were with you so they could engage and say, hey, I heard you saw your friend Billy. It just gives the kids the appearance that you're talking together. So like even if you're not communicating, take the high road and send your spouse or your former spouse a note. Hey, this is what we did. They had a great time. They didn't get a lot of sleep, just a heads up. It'll help ease the transition, and you can still benefit a little bit by taking that step on your own, even if the other spouse isn't engaging.
Yeah, very good advice. You can always, do what you can do and what you can control and send that information, and hopefully it does some benefit. The second type is counter-parenting.
Yeah, this is the most destructive. This is a type of parenting that's actually proactively meant to, how do I say this, selfishly take care of your own insecurities or anger at the expense of your children. So this is when you are purposely allowing the children to do something that the other parent might not like, where you're withholding information from them, and you're just creating conflict to put a wedge between your children and the other spouse, or frankly to alienate the children from the other spouse. This is a behavior that is the worst thing that I could describe in divorce. Children didn't ask for the divorce, but when you do this, you're destroying their ability to be equally happy with both parents. I say this a lot to my clients. Most children need a healthy relationship with their opposite sex parent because that's the bar by which they're going to judge their future relationships. So if a mother, for example, destroys a relationship between a daughter and a father, that daughter doesn't have a bar to judge her future relationships by. So it's to your own advantage for your own children to build each other up, but not put them in a bad situation with the children.
So unlike parallel parenting, where somebody may just not be communicating, sitting there sort of like co-parenting with a wall in a way, counter-parenting, I would say, is like throwing grenades. Like they are actively trying to sabotage and undermine and do negative things. I see this a lot with dietary restrictions, even, religious based, and the other parent doesn't agree with that. And they're like, we're going to feed the child all the pork in the world, or, things like that just is not okay in the one parent's home. And so it just ends up really being destructive for everybody involved, frankly.
Yeah, primarily, definitely the kids, but even the spouse who's engaging in that behavior, it's really destructive for that spouse because what I've seen is their friends and family know it and see it, but they're not going to say anything because that's their blood, that's their friend. They're not going to say anything, but they see it and they lose respect for you.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that spouse carries so much anger that it begins to affect them physically, and it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
What I've seen is the people who could move on from divorce in the healthiest way are people who could put that aside and just be friendly. It allows them to move forward in a healthy way. So you're creating your own baggage by counter-parenting.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, that if somebody is engaging in this behavior, there is something very hurt and broken inside of them that is not getting healed. They are not moving forward and dealing with their emotions with the divorce, and they're still actively in this conflict and even creating it. And that's just not healthy for anybody involved. And certainly, like you touched on, can impact the next level of relationships, friends, grandparents, parents who don't want to be involved in that type of behavior. And then we get to, the gold star, what everybody wants to do, which is co-parenting.
Yeah, co-parenting is phenomenal. Co-parenting is really parenting as if you're still married. And I hate to say that because you're getting a divorce, but you're still the creators of these children. You're the only two people who have investment in them the way you two do. And it's really working together. So the words that I use are extreme communication, like I said, making sure everybody's aware of what's going on, how the kids are feeling, and always working together. Extreme collaboration. Just like if you're married, sometimes you defer to one spouse or the other if they have big feelings about a topic, but you work together. And then I also say flexibility. Like if your spouse needs help, I've seen too many parents say, well, you didn't help me when I needed help, so I'm not going to help you. These are your children. If they're asking for help, this is free bonus time. Take it, and then your spouse is more likely to give back to you as well when you need help. So communication, collaboration, flexibility, and just treating them like they're being parent. I mean, it allows, like, people talk about children of divorce, and I think children of divorce in the negative tone is for counter-parenting and parallel parenting. Most parents who could co-parent well, the children have great relationships with their parents. They see their parents happy together. They're more comfortable, and they understand they have a different life in two homes, but they're happy to see their parents getting along, as standing together as parents. I often say you don't have to be friends, but be friendly. You don't have to be holding hands, but stand next to each other with respect to your kids. Let them see that you're still parents for them.
At all ages, kids feel more secure when the parents are a united front, so to speak. That just really helps them overall. I think there have been several studies that say that it's not inherently divorce that harms children, but it is how the parents co-parent that really determines their future mental health relationships that you touched on, and different issues that would impact them long term going into the future. And even college age kids, where their parents get divorced, really appreciate, the solidified front and the co-parenting that parents can exhibit even when kids are older.
Yeah, when I worked corporate, I mean, one of the things that I was a strong believer of, tone at the top matters. And in the business world, like if your boss is angry and bitter all the time, I mean, the team is going to be agitated. If the boss comes in with a friendly and a cordial way, the team is going to get together and work together better. In a divorce, it's so much the same thing. Parents are at the top. They are at the top. So they get to decide, are their friends and family going to be comfortable around them around the divorce? And are their children going to be comfortable around them with the divorce? If they set the tone of being friendly and working together without stress, their friends may not choose sides. Their kids may be comfortable. So I think every parent has it in their ability to set the tone at the top for everybody in their life, most importantly for their children.
Yeah. It's almost like to think about the business of co-parenting, take the emotion out of it and focus it through the lens of what's best for the children. And sometimes it's very hard for a parent. Maybe they didn't want the divorce or the circumstances, and there may be a lot of big feelings around that, but they just need to put that to the side and think what is best for the child in this situation, regardless of the age, and make decisions based on that as opposed to maybe how their gut or their heart feels.
Yeah, it's not the anger for your spouse, it's your love for your child.
Yeah.
Like just doing little special things like, hey, it's your mom's birthday, let's go get a gift.
Yeah.
What do you want to do for her? Let me help you do it. Or, hey, I hear your cousin's having a party. I know it's my weekend, but let me call your mom and see if she would rather have you over there. Like things like that, those olive branches show the kids that you care more about them than yourselves.
Yeah.
And that hopefully your other spouse, does in kind as well.
Yeah, I mean, treat others as you want to be treated. So if you want a little grace with that family event, make sure that you're extending those as well. And hopefully that will come back your way. I think the best type of situation I tell my clients is where I work really hard on developing the perfect parenting plan for them that they never look at.
Right. Put it in a drawer.
Shove it in a drawer, never look at it. But if you have to, it's very good.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Usually it's the holiday schedule they have to check back to a little bit because that could be complicated
Yeah.
and that's important. But the rest of it is just work together and be nice.
What's going on that week? What are the activities? How do we need to shift things here? One thing I also tell people to really think about is that the kid's property belongs to the child. And if you have given them a gift of let's say it's an iPad or something like that, that's their gift. I see so many parents who are like, they have to leave that at my house, whether it's an iPad that's expensive or a coat or a pair of shoes. And I understand everybody wants the necessities at their own home or things that they've purchased. But what I've seen feedback on is that kids really hate that. They hate not being able to enjoy their possessions wherever they may go.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone should think how they would feel if they were in their shoes.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody listening to this has loving parents and hopefully they didn't get divorced. Imagine if your parents weren't talking to each other and were putting rules around you like that. Like, I think you would just imagine how you would feel. And you're more mature now when you're listening to this. Your children are 2, 5, 10, 14, where they're very impressionable and this stuff just doesn't sit right. It's just a terrible thing. So I wish more parents would be able to do what's best for the kids. I mean, we talk a lot about finances in a divorce, right? And, marital home is often their most valuable possession or their retirement accounts, but it's really your kids.
Yeah.
Above board, would you rather your house look great or in 15 years, or would you rather your kids be healthy? I mean, your kids' health and happiness is what's going to bring you joy into your later years.
When parties are approaching divorce and they have kids, why is mediation a good option for them?
Oh, it's phenomenal because when you litigate, as you know, you negotiate from the extremes and it's a battle. When you mediate, you generally start with shared agreement and common beliefs and you work out from there. So you're always working more positively in mediation. You're also building your parenting plan. And what I've seen, most mediators I know really want a good outcome. A lot of lawyers in amicable divorce, or all lawyers in amicable divorce or lawyer want the same too, but sometimes in big firms, they're just churning through and getting stuff done. In mediation, your mediator wants a good outcome. They want you to understand the pros, the impacts of your actions. They help you build your plan together. I mean, I often stop one of my first sessions because I always start with parenting and I say, this isn't that hard, is it? And they're like, no, this is pretty easy.
Yeah.
I'm just asking you questions about your kids, like you know them. This is really easy. Why don't you take the time and in a less expensive, less controversial, less public way, let's build a plan.
Yeah.
The other option is to have lawyers argue to the extremes, go in front of a judge, make decisions. And we all know when we make our own decisions, we're more likely to be happy with them.
Exactly. I think what people don't understand is if you go to court, you're being placed in an adversarial process, which means you're slinging mud at the other side. You're asking the court to declare you as the winner on whether it's Christmas visitation or a 401k, whatever it might be. The judge is going to pick a position and go with it. Whereas mediation really creates an ecosystem of flexibility, co-parenting, as well as creativity. If people have an unusual work schedule or a child has special needs or anything really that needs to be customized, you really have that ability in mediation to work out all of those details where a judge just may not have the bandwidth for something that's a little bit outside the norm.
Yeah, and a lot of people are fearful, or some people are fearful of mediation if they don't understand that they could still have legal representation. For the parenting plan, which in my process is 70% of what they do, they don't need a lawyer at all.
Yeah.
But on the finances, if there's a disparate income where alimony is an option, I often tell my clients, hey, this is a big decision for you. If you'd like to, I could introduce you to an amicable lawyer. You could get a consultation and make sure you're informed before we make decisions. So you could be guided by a lawyer without a big retainer. A lot of the people will do free consultations or an hourly rate, and it's really easy to get good advice. Or they'll have a lawyer at the end review it, and then a judge has to approve it.
Yeah.
So you're still protected, but you have the flexibility of creating your own solutions.
Yeah, and one thing I found in working and developing the Amicable Divorce Network is that mediation is different everywhere. So my understanding in Illinois where you are, it isn't, I guess, a norm that the attorneys go with the clients to the mediation. It would probably be permitted, but isn't the standard. Whereas where I'm in Georgia, attorneys go to every mediation with every client. So it's very different geographically.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like. A lot of my clients ask me, should we call a lawyer first? And I'm like, if you want to, you can, but I'm just telling you, if you call the wrong one, we're going to go down the wrong path. So wouldn't it be nice to have your entire agreement where you just knock on a lawyer's door and say, here's our parenting plan and our finance plan. Can you please write this up for us and get it approved for in front of a judge?
Yeah, I think people don't understand there are, I hate to say, high conflict, high billing lawyers out there. And then there's people and professionals that we have in the Amicable Divorce Network who are vetted for experience, resolution focus, and engaging in fair billing practices. And so we're very passionate about giving people the services they need and can afford. And so in a situation that you're talking about, they could touch base with an attorney and get their questions answered, but nobody's going to sort of jump in and overwork or over lawyer the case. And so it really is a very controllable access to legal advice.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the wonderful people in Amicable Divorce Network, the best benefit for me was meeting so many amicable lawyers in my geography because I partner with them. I don't partner with them. I refer them out to my clients, and if they like them, they'll work with them. But I know that they'll give them advice, they'll get their stuff done amicably, they'll respect the mediation process, and we can get everything done very efficiently.
Yeah, it's always important to know. I hate to say, but there's attorneys out there who aren't vetted, and we call it blowing up a case, that they may just look at the paperwork and invent problems because that's how they make money. They make money on conflict, and you definitely don't want that to be a part of your co-parenting relationship. So most people I do find are able to come up with at least the strong bones of a parenting plan themselves, how they want to generally do things, and so really don't need any sort of litigious behavior in that regard, hopefully. And so it's really best for them to sit down with a mediator or themselves and just sort of work through it. And then if they have a hiccup, come to somebody neutral to help them work through those challenges.
Yeah, I mean, if the benefit of working with a mediator is it's extremely low cost, and the mediator knows all of the decisions you're required to think about it with the parenting plan. And I've seen couples come up with their own parenting plan, and it's very sparse. And I'm like,
yes.
Okay, let's add a few things. We just want to avoid conflict down the road. So
yeah, exactly. So, there's a good level of detail there. I have seen where people go overboard and have all this crazy detail. So there's a nice balance there on what you actually need and need to spend your time on. So getting some professional guidance on that is helpful, as well as, getting the book. One of your colleagues in Chicago, Morgan, wrote about, holiday schedules and things, and that's in here as well. Michael's guiding you on co-parenting and the different types. And I think it's important for people to read your chapter. They might be engaging in some parallel or counter-parenting behavior and not really understand that, and maybe take a minute to reflect on that and hopefully move towards the co-parenting space for their kids.
Yeah, I love it. If we can make a difference, you just make my day.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what we're all about. That's what we're here for. If people are listening to this, Michael, and they want to work with you, how can they reach you?
My website is michaelsmediation.com, or they could call me directly at 224-544-9990.
And if you're driving and you're like, there's no way that I can write that down, save this episode and come back, because Michael's information will be on the show notes. You can also find him on our website at amicableddivorcenetwork.com under our Illinois professional directory, and reach out to him that way as well. Michael, thank you so much for all the work that you do to help families and for contributing such an important chapter to the book.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.